Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in my previous video, I discussed about basic feature of React, and then I discussed about virtual DOM, JSX, Babel, and then components. So if you haven't watched that video, so I recommend you to just go and watch that video so you can have the basic concept of React, and I will add the link inside the description. And in this video, I'm going to talk about states and props, and because this is very important topic, and then I'm going to implement those state and props using functional component. So I will create a parent and child component and pass a props from parent to child. So let's start with what is props. So props is short for properties, and it's a plain JavaScript object. So basically the parent component can communicate with the child component. We can pass the props to the component, and it's similar to the functional parameter. So this is called the props, but state is managed within the component, and it is similar to the variable declared within a function. So this is what is props and state, but I need to show you inside the code. So let's jump to the code. So here you can see that this is the application, and in this application I can create a component. So first I'm going to create a folder. So this is the components folder. We can create as many components as we want. As I already told you that React application is created by using small components. So here let's say I create a parent component. And yeah, remember one thing, whenever we create a component file, so we have to use Pascal case, otherwise it will not render it. So let's say it's a parent component. Yes. And then I will create one other component, that is a child component. So in the parent component, I'm going to write some code. We have to import React from React. And then we have to import child component also inside it. So child component, and then from this is the child component that I have already created. And so I'm going to use functional component. You can create this thing using class component, but as we all know that now React version 16.1, 16.7 is coming. So now we are moving forward with the functional component, and we use functional component because it's easy to read and it's perform better than class component. So I'm going to use functional component, and inside that I'm going to use arrow function. So let's say I'm creating a parent component, and then this is arrow function. Inside it I'm going to create a, so I'm as I told you earlier that I'm going to return a JSX. So here I'm going to say that I'm going to call a child component. So and now here we can use props. So what I want to pass a props to the child component. So let's say the prop value is my name. So name is the key and value is set. So like this, I can pass a props, like passing a property to the child component. And now I have to export this component because I'm going to call it inside the app.js. So I'm going to export it. Right. And now I'm going to create a inside the child component. I'm going to write the function. So I'm copy that parent component function. I don't need it, and I will change the name. So now the name will be child component, and I want to use that property here. So to use the property inside the functional component, we have to add it inside the function like this. And here you can see now the props, I can have the props here. So if I write here at fun, and then if I write hi, and then if I want to use that property, I have to write props dot name, because name is the key. And then I will just delete this code, and then I have to export this function, this component also, so that it can be imported there. So here you can see that inside the child component, I have just used that props dot name, and then I export the child component, which is imported here. And now this parent component I will call inside the app.js, because as you can see that right now app.js is the main file, which is the React application is calling. So I will remove this code, and then after removing this code, I can just call the parent component here, right? Like this. So I don't have to write it. So I can just, because whatever we open, we have to end it. So that's why we have to add the end tag. And here I will import the parent component. So parent component from dot slash, not dot, only dot slash components and slash this parent. So what I have done, I have just import a parent component here, and then I'm calling it inside the app.js. Now, if I refresh the page, I can see that it's showing the high sid. So how it's calling it? So app component is calling the parent component, and inside the parent component, I have called the child component. But in the child component, I have passed sid. So yeah, so I don't need this. I can add the thing here. So this is the better code. So you can see that sid is there. So if I pass another name, like if I pass ABC, so it will say and save it. So it will say ABC. So this is prop. So this is called the property, and this is what we can use in the parent-child communication. And also you can pass event handler or function in the prop. So let's say now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a function. So let's say my function called handle to do, right? And inside the handle to do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to console log thing. So let's say I'm going to console log and clicked, right? Now we can pass as many props as we want. So we are going to pass multiple props here. So name we already passed. Now we are going to pass another prop that is called handle to do. And like this we can do handle. So now what I want to access these props. So it's saying handle to do is not defined because D is capital. So now it will say define. And now I will go to child component. What I will do, so it's already high, and I have to put bracket because now I'm going to use multiple thing here. So I'm going to create a button. So let's say I will create a button here. So button, and then I have to put on click, right? So on click, and then now my another props name is handle to do, right? So I'm calling on after on click, when you click on the button, it will call that props and it will then console log the thing. So that I want to show you. I will say click me and save it. Okay, so it's okay, yeah. So you can see that it's saying that there is a JSX fragment error. So why we are getting this error? Because we are calling at header tag and button on the same node. So we have to put a JS fragment. So to put it, we can, yeah, so we can wrap all the divs which are on the same level like this, so that this error will go, and we save the. So after saving it, we can see that there is a click me button here, and once I click this button, I will show you that the console log will appear. So in the console log, when I click this button, it's saying I'm clicked. So you can see that inside the props, not only the property, like not only the value or a static value, we can pass the function also. So that the parent component can communicate it, and the function is defined in the parent component, and the child component use those function. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about state. So as I told you that state is managed within the component. So this is a functional component. So in the class component, what's happened that we use this dot state property, but in functional component, we use hooks. So hooks are the latest feature in React. So it's coming with React 16.7, and it adds the missing pieces of functionality to React. So by using state hooks, it's possible to add state to the functional component. So now I'm going to use a state hook. So for that, I'm going to use state. So I'm going to import it. You can see that I'm importing a use state, and I have to define a state here. So as I already told you that a state is like a variable. So I'm going to define one state. So let's say my state is to do, right? So this is my state, and then I have to call a function set to do, and this is my use state. here I'm going to provide a default value. So let's say my default value is pending, right? So this is my default value. Now set to do is what? So basically to do is our state, and set to do, if you want to update the state, then we have to call the set to do function. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass this to do state. So to do value will also be passed to my child component like this, and here I will write to do. And also I already passed handle to do. In handle to do, what I will do now, I will set the state to complete. So here you can see that to set the state I have to write this, and now I will change my value from pending to complete. So once I click on this button, so the value from pending is changed to state completed. So, and I already passed this value to child component, so I'm going to use it here. So after hi, I'm going to write one more thing. So I will present a div, and I will say that, yeah, to do status. I can say to do status, and then I can call my props to do, right? As soon as I will do that, you can see that my status is pending right now. So, and now I will change the name of the button. So I will say change status, right? So now once I click this button, the state will change from pending to complete. So I'm going to do that. Okay, yeah. So you can see that the state is changed. So this is the state. This is the use of state. So you can define some state, and if you want to change it, you can just call the set state function, and use state is the hook. So this is coming in the functional component. In class component, you call the state differently, but in the functional component, you have to call it like that only. So this is the basic concept of state and props. And I'm going to talk about one more thing, that here I pass the props like this, but in the class components, the props, we can pass something different. So let me show you one thing. Yeah, one more thing I want to talk here. So this is the functional components. Let's say this is a sample functional component, but what React is doing, so it's changing the functional component like this only. So I have created a my name is props.name. So this is a JSX, right? But the React converted this function and used React.create element. Then it passes the tag here, and then it passes the props and other parameters. So we can write inside the React, we can write it without using JSX. So this is the JSX code, but we can write it like that only. But we don't have to worry about that, because this JSX to this code conversion, this is what Babel is doing. So we use so React create React application already installed the Babel inside the boilerplate. So we are just writing this code, and it's converting in this. So this is the use of JSX and to know this function below function, and this conversion is happening using Babel. So this is the work of Babel. Now what I'm going to talk about, so we have created a props here, and then we pass the props like this, but inside the class component. So if we use a class component, how we can we can use the prop. So here I have written some code. So you can see that this is a class called car, and it's extended from React.component. So here, so let's say this is a child component. So how we are using the props here? First of all, we have to use super props, and we have to create a constructor inside a class. Then inside the render method, we want to use the props. So we have to use as this dot props dot model. While inside the function component, we are directly using as a props dot. So this is the basic difference. Now you can ask that why this super is here. So we know that super calls the parent constructor. So here the parent class is like React.component, right? So if you don't call this super props, or if you don't call this super function, then we cannot use this dot props inside the class component. So if you want to use it, use the this dot props, we have to call it. So that's why the super is here. So this is I just want to show you the basic difference of using props inside a child component while using function and while using class. So this is the class syntax, and this is the functional syntax. So this is all about states and props. Now there is one more concept. We call it lifting states up. So what is lifting state up? So let's say we have another child. So there is another child component. I am again going to create one more component. This is called child component 2, right? And let's say it also use the same code, and it's also showing the status, right? Change status, and then to do status of child component 2, right? And here the child component 1. And what I'm doing inside the parent component, I'm calling both the child. So I'm calling another child also, like this. Okay, and here I'm calling child component. What is the name of file? So the file name is child component. Okay, file name is child component. The file name is child component 2, right? So inside the parent, I'm saying child component 2, and I'm passing the same props. I have to import that component also, and I will say child component 2 on file name is child component 2, and so here I will call it child. So it's saying, okay, again the JS fragment error, because these both the components is on the same level. So we have to just wrap it inside this. Okay. So you can see that now there are two components, and both the component status is completed. So I've refreshed the application. So now you can see it's pending. So well, if I change status of from any one component, both the component change the status. So let's say if I click the button of this, you can see that both state is changed. So if you want to share the states between two component, so there are two sibling component, and if you want to share the state, so we have to lift the state. So we have to define the state, always define the state inside the parent component, and then pass that state and the set state method from parent to child component, so that both the component can share the state. So this is called the lifting state. So these are the concept for states and props inside the React. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the lifecycle method. So in the class component, there is component did mount, but in functional component, there is use effect. So I'm going to talk about those. So if you want to learn React, so please subscribe to this channel, and then I'm going to meet you in the next video. Until then, keep learning.